Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for joining Insight Legal for this webinar on time recording. My name is Josh Dallywell, and I'm one of two hosts on this call today. I'm kindly joined by my colleague, Andy Butler, who many of you who are Insight Legal customers will already be familiar with. Good afternoon, Andy.
Hi, Josh. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Excellent. I also have my colleagues, Gail and Nathan, who will be monitoring the chat and the QA boxes on the Zoom bar I guess, for any questions you have. I should also very quickly mention that some of you may also notice there's a poll button on the Zoom taskbar as well. So we kind of appreciate your feedback on that. This webinar is being recorded, so we will be making a copy available to everyone who has registered, and that will go out via email. So you'll get that as a link to the video on YouTube, but also on the Insight Legal website. I think it's likely to be Monday before that email goes out to everyone. Okay, I know we have a real mix of clients and non-clients on this webinar, so there may be a fair few who aren't already aware of what your role is at Insight Legal. Andy, so do you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so hi, everyone. My name is Andy. I work on the new business desk at Insight as a BDM. I've been in Insight for 7 years. I know the program very well. I come from a support background. I will be presenting sort of the time recording part. The actual act of it, we'll talk about why, how, I'll give you some examples, and Josh will be sort of leading the slides and the actual webinar itself.
Excellent. And I think, again, for the benefit of everyone, I think about 2/3 of you on this call today are not currently Insight Legal clients, so welcome. And so I guess in terms of a quick bit of background, in terms of, I guess, kind of who Insight Legal are, Insight Legal is a legal software company. And we typically work with practice managers, finance managers, and senior partners in law firms, anywhere really from sole practitioners to businesses of about 150 people. Okay, and when we first talk to, I guess, people, what they typically want to tell us is that they're either annoyed with the lack of support they receive from their current software provider, okay, which is sometimes causing them financial loss due to no access to their time-critical files. They may feel powerless, sometimes feeling like they've been held hostage to unfair, unexpected, and unbudgeted price increases, and sometimes being untied to unnecessary multi-year contracts. And I guess also be scared of being non-compliant due to being forced to use software that's either unsuited or running multiple systems to essentially run one function. I don't suppose any of that sounds familiar to anybody on this call right now, but if it does, then please drop me a line. Okay, so what do we have in store for you today? Okay, I'm going to put forward my thoughts on why I think all firms should time record, and please feel free to disagree with me there. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions and air your views using the chat and QA functions in Zoom, which you'll see on the toolbar. And I will be handing over the controls to my colleague Andy to show you some of the, I guess, different ways to time recording using Insight Legal, as well as share some of the reporting. Okay. Now, I know that time recording is a contentious subject. I saw an interesting quote recently where it talked about the good old days when solicitors would charge what they deemed to be a fair fee based on reviewing the actual physical weight of the file. Okay, now, and with the introduction of time recording meant an increase in fees billed as it became easier to demonstrate to the client the full extent of the work that was being carried out. What I feel kind of law firms haven't always understood is that the primary reason for recording time is to understand the cost of the work being undertaken. And then that is therefore necessary to record everything. Whether this time can be billed is a separate issue and something only considered at the point of billing. A lot of law firms squarely associate time recording with billing. And with more and more work now being charged on a fixed fee basis, this has led to fee earners to question whether it is still necessary to record their time. And I think this is missing the fundamental point about time recording, which is to record the cost of what you're doing. Time recording is just as important with fixed fees because once the fee is fixed, the only variable that can affect the profitability of the work is the cost of the work, which you cannot know unless time is properly recorded. You'd be surprised at how many law firms don't know the cost of the work they undertake and whether the fees they charge are fair or even profitable. I think there's a tendency, certainly amongst smaller firms, to accept any work, regardless of the complexity, with no acknowledgement of the time being spent on the file. Now, no one needs me to tell them that in the legal sector, time is money. So therefore, recording your time should be very important to law firms. And placing on a value on each fee earner's time will help you realize, as a firm, what are all the low value tasks, sometimes routine admin tasks, such as opening a file, carrying out checks, sending out a client care letter, updating the client on the status of the case, which should ideally be delegated to a junior admin or trainee, releasing the fee earners to spend more of their chargeable time on more complex, lucrative work that necessitates knowledge and expertise to perform. Time recording should, in theory, be important for data analysis and individual performance reviews. For law firms, time recording is the predominant way of measuring an individual's efficiency. For instance, if it should take you 20 minutes to produce a letter, but you're taking 45 minutes to complete that task, then this efficiency discrepancy is quite revealing. Now, considering the above data, perhaps you need additional training. Alternatively, maybe there are other people are spending not enough time on producing their letters and missing crucial information that needs reviewing. Is it possible that you're experiencing IT issues which impede how swiftly you can perform any set task? And so by constantly recording this data, you and your firm will be able to get an indicative view of your productivity and areas for improvement. Law firms will also accumulate this data to make business decisions. The recorded data should be analyzed and interpreted in many ways by partners and directors. For example, data may be used to determine how much the firm can profitably charge a client in fixed fees, given the amount of employees' time that's invested. Likewise, the data will inform whether certain tasks can be delegated and the type of person you will need to hire and at what cost to the business. Elsewhere, this information can be used to justify the expenditure on technology or legal technology, both software and hardware, and you should be able to accurately assess the savings on time versus the cost of any deployment. Ultimately, time recording should be geared towards making you more productive as individuals, but also as a firm. Regular recording means that you gradually realize how long tasks actually take to complete. Hence, you can allocate sufficient time to complete similar assignments properly in the future. You may actually surprise yourself with how much time you spend on unimportant tasks in reality. By recording, you can appreciate what distractions and the impact they have on how long it takes you to complete a particular project as compared to the time expected. Elsewhere, by setting timers, you can drastically reduce what we call procrastination and instead increase your concentration on your priority work. Okay, and this renewed focus can also be positive when balancing work commitments and potentially ensure more of you have a proper work-life balance and not taking work home with you this weekend. Now, before I kind of hand over to Andy to run through a demo of time recording in Insight Legal, I want to pose a quick question to the audience here today, and I obviously value your feedback on this, because obviously you've heard my viewpoint on this. Your responses will be anonymous, so please feel free to give me and my colleagues that are tracking your responses your thoughts. I'm interested in particularly hearing from firms and individuals in this webinar who don't record time, and your reasons for not doing so. And I wonder how much of it is simply, that you see time recording as almost being kind of an unduly a time-consuming task, in which case it's self-defeating. If the one thing that is meant to be driving efficiency is eating up into your core time, then I can see how it can be counterproductive. Okay, in which case, does the way you record time actually need improving? I know people should be doing kind of daily timesheets, but sometimes I guess those are done on a weekly basis. Okay, and I guess I'm going to hand over the controls over to you now, Andy. I think you're going to start off by showing us how you automate time recording in Insight Legal.
I'm going to leave that one till last because it's the
really?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go through everyone the ways that are much more manual to start off with.
Okay.
And then we'll go from worst to absolute best. Okay. So I'll just share my screen. Thanks, Josh. Okay. So everyone, first of all, how your practice works, right? So at a firm level, at a work type level, at an individual's level, time recording is all configurable. So how you choose your firm works, how you choose your department to work, how as an individual you like to work is all sort of serviceable by you. Okay. Like Josh said, I'm going to go through the 4 ways to time record on Insight. That is with manual timers, starting them and finishing them when as you need to. Recording time in a timesheet, maybe at the end of the day, recording your own time. Perhaps asking someone else to record the time for you. We have automatic time recording that work in conjunction with a number of tasks that I'll show you as well. We also have a mobile app, which comes as standard and allows you to view a file, but also time record with Insight. And of course, you can have the desktop application open with your iPad, your iPhone, your Android open at the same time, recording time when as you need to. If you're sort of out of the office, if you're in court, if you're traveling, you can record time at any time. So the very first thing to go through, manual timers. Where we are now, we're just in the cases tab. Your Insight looks either the same or would look the same as mine. We're in the cases tab. You have an icon that reads time recorder. When I click on this, if I log in as a fee earner, it'll be for myself. If I'm not a fee earner, I would have a blank drop down and I would choose who I'm recording time for at this time. The date will always default to today. You can, of course, record time for a point in the past. You can forward date time should you need to. You'll tell Insight the matter that the time is currently for. The lookups in Insight are very, very flexible, using your client's name, their address, their postcode, something like their NI number, for example. If you're looking for a matter, you'll be able to type in sale of 123 Avenue, dispute between X and Y, the matter's reference, whatever that file should be known as. If I find a client with you now by the name of Atkins, I find my client, I view the matters for him, and I choose the matter to record time under. Your firm will have all of the charge rates that you're used to. These are created by you at any single time. Firms that have a migration that come to Insight from their current software, their charge rates are migrated. You would see everything you're used to. The activities, very much the same. They would either be migrated or created at any single time. This would be your list as opposed to mine. In the narrative, the time recording does have sort of a lot of implications. So if in this description, I type in a narrative, right? If I have a headset on, I can dictate into this box. If I want to paste, I can paste into this box. I can return and have paragraphs within the description. The description is useful for myself to look at in the future. My colleagues can look at this in the future. If when I am raising an invoice, I can present to the client a time schedule or a billing guide or a performer, whatever everyone you're sort of familiar with calling it. And the client can read the narrative should I want them to. If the work has been completed, I can say this took 10 units. Out of the box, Insight has 1 unit as 6 minutes, right? As standard, that's configurable. If it took me 25 minutes, I can work either way. Obviously, the value will be yours, your hourly rate. If the work hasn't been done, however, and you are literally sitting down to complete some perusal, I simply click play. That will start a timer running. I see those seconds ticking. If I need to take a break and go to lunch, I can pause my timer. When I come back, I can resume it. When that time is complete, I commit it to charge it to the file, and it will live there as work in progress. Discard will bin that time as if it was never made in the first place. If you're ever interrupted, and let's say I'm halfway through this perusal, but I need to attend another meeting, right? Or I need to take a call that's coming, or someone's coming in to visit me. If I simply click this red X here, Insight will store the time at the top of my screen. Right? And just to show you, I could start another timer for a separate file, a different client, and it remains there, right? At any time, tomorrow morning, next year, I can double click on the timer and it will come back for me. Okay, that is a manual timer. The second way, in a little bit less detail, because that's sort of the bare bones of it now. The second way to record time is via the timesheet, right? Absolute personal preference, everyone. You will record time how you're used to. I always say to people when I'm doing demos, we're not trying to reinvent your wheel. Right? Within the timesheet here, you can record multiple items at a time. If you're the sort of person who likes to record time when they're going through their day, so they can view everything stacked up before they submit everything in one go, you can do it here as well. If I am part of the support team and I'm looking after 3 fee earners and they give me their timesheets, I can enter them all here. And as you can see, everyone, now there's a couple of timers for me. There's also some time I'm putting through for Andrea. Right? You'll see your time in here. It can be on different files. It can be on different dates. Anyone in the room who practices sort of litigation work, where for Precedent H's and other such forms that you guys know better than me, when you need your phases and tasks, your J codes, Insight will facilitate those as well, right? And they will only show on matters you have them show on. So that's the timesheet as well. Automatic time recording. So everyone, a number of tasks and activities integrated within our workflow, you can have automatic time recording. And that just takes away those 2 manual ways that we just launched. It takes that out of the equation. So when you are launching an email and sending an email, when you are receiving an email, when you're preparing a document, be it a client care letter, an attendance note, an engagement letter, or anything else, and when you prepare a form, whether that's for me, your power of attorney forms, an IHT form, an AP1, for example, just some common forms, Insight can automatically time those activities as well, right? Just to show you sort of an email, obviously if anyone were to have a demonstration of this, I could show you every single aspect of it. If I want to launch an email to Mr. Paul Atkins, as long as I've recorded an email address for him, I have the icon, launch the email, that will create an email which we might have spoken about before, or we'll do a future demo about. I think that's coming up shortly, actually. But the email is important now. What Insight has done for me, it started a timer, right, with those seconds ticking. And it's been 16 seconds since I launched the email. I can take my time sending that email, attaching any documents, which Insight's a document management system as well, for anyone that doesn't know. I can do whatever I need to. When I come back into Insight, this timer will be here for me, and I pause the timer. Right, in the description, I'll be able to say, email to client, XYZ, okay, anything at all. If that timer has been left running, and I've gone out to lunch and it reads 2 hours, I can always overtype, and I can amend that. Something everyone just to note as well. So when you time record and inevitably something incorrect goes through, you put time to the wrong file perhaps, you realize the narrative is incorrect when you look at it next week, anything you can imagine, right? You've put it through for the wrong fee owner. Insight is all set up by permission, and you can determine who has access to this. You've got this icon here called time recording maintenance, which allows you to maintain time recording. Something else you have is the ability to write time off, and you can do this at any time. You can do this when you close a file. You can do this when you're issuing a bill. Of course, with billing, you're able to write time up. You can write time down. It's very, very slick. Okay, that's again a sort of a separate conversation. The final way to time record, which I can't sort of show on my screen now, but if you were to have a proper demo, I could get it up on a display, is our mobile app. The mobile app is available on Android devices, Apple devices as well. It will work on an iPad just as it will a Surface Pro. It allows you to view files. You can look at the ledger. You can view the email. You can view the address. If you need directions to the client or the contact, for example, you can view the documents on it. But what it also allows you to do is time record. And all of the functionality that I've shown you so far is available through the app. You can start a timer. You can put time through immediately.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Andy. And I have had a question which has just come through while you were talking, but we'll address that in a few minutes. Great. If you could give me controls to reshare my screen.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. Share, and there we go. So thanks for that. And I guess in really kind of in terms of kind of a quick summary in terms of, I guess, kind of what are some of the benefits that we've talked about in terms of time recording. I guess through analyzing the data collected and setting targets for each fee earner, the firm is able to monitor performance against these targets in a simple and yet kind of quite an effective way. And obviously one of the things that we haven't had time to go through on this call today is some of that reporting that comes through from Insight in terms of, I guess, how do you set budgets for fee earners, and also how do you measure performance against those targets. Okay. And that, the firm can use the data generated by time recording to assess what each firm has undertaken over a period of time and measure this directly against the firm's expectations. And through this analysis and understanding, the firm is able to make improvements to benefit the individual and the firm as a whole, and also kind of identify areas of wastage and inefficiency in the business. And I guess, and ultimately, to assess the profitability of the work you do, even if it's a fixed fee. Now, for this next slide, I've actually stolen a matrix that my colleague Deborah Whitkiss put together for a presentation that she did at Legal X last year, where she talked about billing success. And again, I'm more than happy to make a copy of this slide available to anyone. But really kind of the analysis of your billing success, which is essentially kind of your cost versus your charge out versus your recovery, should be invaluable for any practice And if you have a good practice management system, then it is something that should be very easy to achieve. So, you should use it to your advantage. And essentially kind of the 4 things that make up billing success are getting the work done efficiently as possible, covering the cost of the work that you do, meeting the client's fee expectations, and obviously ensuring that you get paid for the work that you do. Okay. Now, I should just a quick reminder to everybody on the call here that actually, let me go one step further back, that on the Zoom toolbar, so if you kind of move your cursor, you'll see the Zoom toolbar. There is the opportunity for you to ask questions. There is a chat facility, and also we have a poll running on Zoom as well, which is actually asking the question as to whether you time record, yes, no, or but, or do you see the benefits from it? Andy, I guess this is a question for you, and I guess you kind of talked about this very briefly on the actual demonstration. Is can you set rates by type of work and the fee earner?
Yeah, of course. So that's just part of. I did touch on that very briefly. That would just be the charge rates, right? You can have your own charge rates. Each fee earner, right, by their level of qualification, whatever it should be, will have their own charge rates as well. That's very easy to set up.
Okay, excellent. And obviously, we're not going to kind of go into the admin settings on the screen there. I'm just conscious of the time that we've kind of set aside kind of half an hour for this session today, but I will come back to some of the other questions that have been posted out, and we will be responding to each individual directly. Okay, but really kind of, I guess, in terms of kind of next steps, we will, as I mentioned earlier, be sharing a copy of the video recording of today's session, so keep an eye out for that email and link contained within it. Anyone watching this as a live session or recording and you'd like a demo of the time recording features of Insight Legal or any of the other Insight Legal features, then please feel free to reach out to me directly on the email that you see on the screen in front of you, or contacting our webinars team at webinars@insightlegal.co.uk. Our next webinar will be looking at email and document management. There may be some aspects in that one which our existing clients are not aware of, so please keep an eye out for more information on that one, and that'll take place on Wednesday the 24th of November at noon. Okay, and if you'd like to also receive information on that or any of our other forthcoming webinars, please feel free to reach out to me or the webinars team on the email addresses that you see. I want to say thank you to Andy, and also for Gail and Nathan for been keeping an eye on the chat. And my apologies that we haven't been able to address more of your questions in the limited amount of time that we had here. But again, we will be following up with everybody individually. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.